All right, today we're doing something really interesting. We're going to take apart a pretty dense sermon from 1979 by Reverend Sun Myung Moon and really get to the heart of its core arguments. So let's just dive right in. So, right out of the gate, the sermon hits you with this question. And it's so direct, isn't it? What are you thinking? This isn't just small talk. This question is the absolute bedrock for everything that follows. It's setting the stage for this whole logical journey we're about to go on. Okay, so to really unpack what the ideal way of thinking looks like, this sermon brings in this fantastic metaphor. It sets up a contrast between two totally different birds, the crane and the sparrow. And here's the difference. The sermon says that noble thinking, well, that's the crane. It's visionary, it's purposeful, it's always looking towards some great big goal. Long-term vision, looking up and ahead. Not getting bogged down by the little things like a sparrow just hopping around on the ground, totally focused on the immediate. So this is the key takeaway, right? It's not just about being a thinking creature. The sermon even gives an example of an ox, calling it a thinking animal, but it doesn't have a noble goal. For us humans, the thing that sets us apart is the quality of our thoughts. And the sermon argues that this quality, well, that's what nobility is all about. Now, this idea about the quality of your thoughts leads us to what is honestly the most memorable idea in this whole sermon. It's this brilliant metaphor that takes our inner world, our minds, and turns it into a physical thing, something that can actually be inspected. And here it is, the thought bag. The idea is that every single one of us is carrying around this bag. Now, it's not a real bag, obviously. It's a metaphor for everything going on inside us. All our intentions, our worries, our dreams, and just the general vibe of our thinking. And then comes the gut punch question. This is where you really have to look inward. The sermon asks, if you had to get that bag inspected, would you be proud? Would you run to the front of the line? Or would you be, trying to hide in the back? It's all about being brutally honest with yourself about what's really going on in your head. And the contrast it paints is, wow, it's stark. Is your inner world full of beautiful things like fragrance and crystal that could make the whole world better? Or is it like a New York City garbage truck? Just a jumbled mess of stuff that, well, you wouldn't want anyone to see. The imagery is designed to be shocking, for sure, to really make the point stick. Okay, so if the goal is to have one of those fragrant thought bags, what's the standard? What exactly makes a thought good in this context? What's on the checklist for this divine inspection? Well, the sermon lays out a few key things. It says a truly good thought isn't just a matter of opinion or what feels good today. Nope. It has to be universal, liked by everyone, everywhere, forever. It has to be timeless, like gold that never loses its shine. And the biggest one, it has to be perfectly lined up with a divine standard. And that's really the bottom line here. This is the ultimate benchmark. Goodness isn't something we humans just made up. According to this logic, it's defined as thinking in total harmony with God's own logic and will. Simple as that. To be good is to think like God thinks. Then the sermon takes this universal standard and applies it to human diversity. The text frames different races as being part of a bigger, purposeful plan. It argues that each has its own kind of beauty and its own role to play, and that absolutely everyone, no matter their background, is equally able to chase after this divine standard of good thinking. Humility is another huge piece of the puzzle here. The sermon uses this really clear analogy. Imagine a student who only gets a 50-point average. If that student is humble and feels like they don't deserve anything, the text says they're actually more deserving of grace than another student with the exact same score who feels entitled and demands to be praised. So meekness is framed as a must-have for getting divine favor. Okay, this is where things get really wild. All of this talk about thinking the right way, it leads to a truly radical, almost shocking idea. It's this concept of competing with other people to make God your prisoner. Yeah, you heard that right. The sermon presents this really unique view that all religions were basically set up by God to get into what it calls a hard-headed competition. And the prize? It's not heaven or salvation in the way you might think. It's something way more personal. The prize is being able to claim God himself. And there's actually a step-by-step logic to it. First, you compete to love God more than anyone else on earth. Then, through that overwhelming love, you paradoxically bind God, making him your prisoner. Once you've captured God with your love, you can claim him. And after you've won, that's when you find true freedom, because you've already done the ultimate thing. I mean, that one sentence just captures the whole wild idea perfectly. It completely flips the script on the usual way we think about worship, right? It suggests that human love, if it's powerful enough, actually has this incredible power over the divine. But in the end, it all comes down to this. The sermon argues that all of this stuff, thinking like a crane, having a clean thought bag, even competing to love God, it's all pretty much useless until you put it into action. Your thoughts have to become words and deeds. That's how you actually change reality. And that's where this explainer is going to leave you, with the sermon's final massive call to action. It's a question that takes you from that quiet internal world of your own thoughts and pushes you to make a bold public promise, a promise to change the world. It's the final challenge, to turn all this logic into a lasting legacy.